In the heart of the Middle East, a silence has fallen where there was once a constant murmur of life. The Euphrates River, one of the most ancient and sacred waterways on earth, has begun to vanish. For thousands of years, this river nourished empires, cities, and generations. It was the liquid thread that connected humanity to its earliest roots. But now, the river's bed lies cracked and bare, stretching for miles through parched earth and desolate plains. From the skies, satellites capture a heartbreaking image, a once mighty ribbon of blue turning to a dull trace of brown and dust. On the ground, what was once a flow of promise now resembles a scar, a reminder of both nature's fragility and humanity's impact upon it. The world watches in disbelief, but scientists on the ground are more than stunned. Because as the Euphrates retreats, it is not only water that disappears, it is history itself, resurfacing in ways few could have imagined. Long before the first stone was laid at the pyramids, the Euphrates River shaped a world that would come to be known as Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers. Alongside the Tigris, it gave rise to Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria, the earliest known civilizations on Earth. It was here that humans first built cities, invented writing, and crafted laws. The river was not merely a source of sustenance, it was a divine presence, woven into myths and scriptures, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the Book of Genesis. Generations regarded the Euphrates as eternal. Its floods brought fertility, its waters carved the rhythm of existence. But in the 21st century, the unthinkable has begun, the river that once defined life in the cradle of civilization is dying. Scientists began noticing alarming signs decades ago. Hydrologists observed a steady decline in water levels, followed by reports of shrinking reservoirs and dried tributaries. Data from NASA's GRACE satellite program revealed that the Tigris-Euphrates River basin was losing water at an accelerating rate, one of the fastest declines on the planet, surpassed only by northern India. By the early 2020s, that loss was equivalent to the volume of the Dead Sea, vanishing every few years. The causes were complex, intertwined, and unmistakably human. Climate change brought soaring temperatures and prolonged droughts. Overuse and dam construction along the river in Turkey, Syria, and Iraq choked natural flow. Agricultural irrigation drained aquifers faster than they could replenish. For local farmers and families, the crisis wasn't abstract. Wells ran dry. Crops withered. Fish that had sustained communities for centuries disappeared. In towns once built on the water's edge, boats now rested on cracked clay, tilted like stranded fossils from a lost age. In 2023 and 2024, researchers monitoring satellite imagery noticed something extraordinary. Sections of the Euphrates near Raqqa, Syria, and downstream toward Al-Qaim, Iraq, appeared to vanish entirely. At first, they believed the imagery was seasonal, perhaps an extreme drought or temporary diversion. But field teams confirmed otherwise, the riverbed had truly dried in multiple stretches. What remained was a landscape out of time, layers of sediment, relics of ancient settlements, and a silence so vast that even the wind seemed hesitant to cross. As one Iraqi archaeologist described, "It is as though the earth itself has turned a page and revealed the memory beneath." When the Euphrates receded, it unveiled an archaeological revelation unlike anything seen in generations. Near the Iraqi city of Anna, researchers uncovered the outline of an ancient subterranean tunnel system, carved into limestone thousands of years ago. The structure extended hundreds of meters, containing chambers lined with inscriptions and remnants of pottery. Further analysis revealed that these tunnels likely dated back to the Bronze Age, possibly used by early Sumerians for irrigation or ritual. Their existence, buried under the river for millennia, had been preserved by layers of silt and sediment, until the water's retreat exposed them once more. Elsewhere along the former riverbanks, archaeologists found terraced stone foundations, petrified wooden beams, and fragments of cuneiform tablets, some still bearing legible marks. It was as if the river had been guarding the remnants of humanity's infancy, only to relinquish them in its final breath. The discoveries sparked a wave of interdisciplinary studies. Geologists analyzed the exposed layers to reconstruct the river's long-term shifts. Paleoclimatologists sampled sediments that recorded thousands of years of climate data, a natural archive of floods, droughts, and volcanic events. The results were sobering. The data revealed that while the Euphrates had always fluctuated, the rate and permanence of its modern decline were unprecedented in at least 7,000 years. In scientific terms, this was not a cycle. It was a collapse. Moreover, chemical analyses of the soil revealed increasing salinity and contamination from upstream industrial runoff, making any natural recovery even less likely. One hydrologist summarized the situation grimly. The Euphrates has reached a tipping point. Without coordinated regional action, the river will not return to what it once was. The disappearance of the Euphrates is not only an ecological event, it is a humanitarian one. In Syria and Iraq, more than 12 million people now face water insecurity linked to the river's decline. Rural families have abandoned farmlands that sustained them for generations. Fishermen have become migrants. Once thriving towns stand ghostly and hollow, their wells dry, their boats overturned. Children in schools learn of the Euphrates as something their grandparents once knew, a myth rather than a memory. Local governments struggle to balance survival with politics. Dams upstream in Turkey regulate much of the remaining flow, creating tension with downstream nations. Each cubic meter of water becomes a geopolitical weapon, a commodity more valuable than oil. As the river's bed revealed its buried past, many found themselves confronting not only scientific wonder but spiritual unease. For centuries, the Euphrates has held a place in religious prophecy. In the Book of Revelation, it is written that the river will dry up to prepare the way for great upheaval. Some communities see the current events through that lens, interpreting them as signs of destiny rather than consequence. Scientists, however, urge perspective. They remind the world that symbolism and science need not conflict, that in both cases, the drying of the river serves as a warning. Whether interpreted as divine or environmental, the message is the same: something essential is being lost. The Euphrates once gave birth to agriculture, cities, and law. It now reveals another lesson, one about fragility, interdependence, and memory. Civilizations that rose along its banks believed in their own permanence. They built ziggurats that reached the sky and wrote their names in stone. Yet all of them eventually fell, often brought down by resource scarcity, climate shifts, or conflict, patterns hauntingly familiar today. As one archaeologist noted while standing amid the dried basin, the Euphrates is not dying. It is reminding us of how civilizations end. These words echo a sobering truth. The story unfolding in Iraq and Syria is not isolated, it is part of a global pattern. From the Colorado River in the United States to the Indus in Pakistan and the Yangtze in China, major waterways face similar declines. The past is not merely resurfacing, it is repeating. There are efforts to preserve what remains. International agencies and local experts are studying sustainable water management, reviving ancient irrigation methods, reducing dependence on dams, and improving water-sharing treaties between nations. In Iraq, pilot projects aim to restore small tributaries and reconnect aquifers through ecological engineering. In Turkey, some initiatives focus on releasing controlled flows to prevent complete desiccation downstream. But these efforts face immense challenges: political instability, economic crises, and decades of infrastructural imbalance. The truth is simple yet daunting: without unified action, the Euphrates will continue to fade. And if it does, the consequences will extend beyond regional boundaries. The river's loss would signal a continental shift in the hydrological balance, a precursor to broader ecological transformation across the Middle East. Perhaps the most striking revelations came not from the ruins themselves but from the microfossil and sediment analyses performed in the newly exposed layers. Teams from the University of Baghdad and international research centers discovered traces of ancient flora, grains of pollen from extinct date palms, and microremains of early cultivated barley and wheat. These samples confirm that the region's early farmers had mastered irrigation far earlier than previously believed, suggesting that organized agriculture along the Euphrates may date back as far as 9000 BCE. In deeper strata, scientists found preserved charcoal and ash, evidence of repeated flood and fire cycles. The layers told a story written in soil, each century leaving a faint fingerprint of human adaptation and struggle. But the uppermost layers, the modern ones, showed something new: plastic particles, hydrocarbon residues, and industrial waste. The geological record now includes the signature of the Anthropocene, the era defined by humanity's own impact. Today, the banks of the Euphrates echo with absence. Wind replaces water. What remains of the river glints only in fragments, small pools reflecting a sun that seems too harsh for such sacred ground. Locals walk across areas that once required ferries. Children play where their ancestors once fished. For many, the sight is unbearable. Yet beneath the sorrow lies a strange beauty, the beauty of revelation, of seeing what was hidden for millennia. In the exposed earth, archaeologists continue their careful work, brushing dust from pottery shards that last saw daylight when empires still believed themselves immortal. Every discovery is a conversation with time itself, a reminder that nothing in nature is truly lost, only transformed. In a way, the Euphrates' disappearance has become its final offering, a mirror through which humanity sees both its origins and its mistakes. It has exposed the architecture of forgotten civilizations, the echoes of early agriculture, the chemistry of changing climates, and the spiritual resonance of loss. For scientists, the river's bed is an open archive; for believers, a revelation; for all of humanity, a warning. The drying of the Euphrates is not the end of the world, but it is the end of a chapter in the story of civilization. Whether we heed its message will determine how the next chapter begins. As dusk settles over the valley, the light turns the riverbed gold. Dust rises like a faint mist, carrying with it memories of silt and song. The Euphrates may be silent now, but it continues to speak, in data, in stone, and in the hearts of those who remember what it once was. Its message is clear: the earth keeps a record of everything we do. The past is never buried forever. When the waters recede, the truth always surfaces. The Euphrates River, once the cradle of civilization, has become its mirror. Beneath its vanished waters lies not only the story of humanity's beginning, but also a reflection of our possible end.